April 11th, 2013. Dear Oprah, I can only begin to tell you how thrilled I am to finally meet you. You've inspired my life in so many ways. Because of you, I've had the courage to say yes to opportunities I would not have ever considered out of fear. These opportunities ended up being amazing experiences, great life lessons, and so giving to me as well as many others. I am sure you have heard this so many times, but I am your biggest Canadian fan. For over a decade, I've been trying to meet you. I've watched your show ever since I could get Oprah on TV, and from that moment you inspired me. Twice in the past, I almost met you. I had tried for years to get tickets to your show, and one time your team called me to invite me when I was in Hawaii celebrating our 10-year wedding anniversary, May of 2007. I was so disappointed, I even considered cutting my 10-year wedding anniversary short to go to your show. But my husband had booked and planned everything as a surprise, and I did not want to hurt him or ruin our anniversary celebration. I still have a little ache that I didn't make it on your show because I was so sure I would have met you somehow. Your staff was so wonderful and understanding. They suggested I call back in the fall. The second time was in the fall, 2008. I had printed one of my favorite pictures of you and posted it on my vision board in my home office. And in your hand, I drew a picture of a book. And I wrote on it, The Blessings of Autism, which represented my desire to write about autism one day. You see, I'm the mother of 3 beautiful children, 2 with special needs, and my youngest has autism. Well, I had an opportunity to go to Chicago the week of September 22nd, 2008. So I called your studio, and I was told you were having a show on autism with Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey that Wednesday. I did show up at Harper's studio that Wednesday, only to find out that the show had actually been taped 2 days prior. I cannot tell you how much it would have meant to me to be at that show. I watched Jenny's story, and I'm so proud of her and what she has done for her son and the autism community. A wonderful thing did happen on that trip. Your staff told me about your store, and I went over to it. And I purchased a beautiful Vera Wang dress from the Oprah closet. The proceeds were going to your school in Africa. I love that dress. I've worn it several times, and each time I do, I feel as if you are giving me a hug. Well, that trip and that dress so inspired me. I had sponsored a small boy named Issa in Uganda, Africa, and he was 7 years old, and his sponsorship was ending. I decided that I may not be able to build a school, but I could somehow put him through university. I also tried to get a passport and visa for him to come and visit us in Canada. It took over 2 years to work on this. Long story short was that the Canadian government denied Issa coming because they feared he would not go back. He was devastated. My children were devastated. They had written to him every year since we began sponsoring Issa. I thought that was the end of the whole situation. Then a strange thing happened. I received a call 2 weeks later, one evening, from a pastor in Uganda who was helping Issa with his visa. He asked me if I would come and speak at an annual women's conference in Kampala, Uganda. His name was Pastor Joseph Mumbe. I got off the phone and told my husband about the call, and he said, "Honey, that is a sign that Issa is not to come here, but you are to go there." So off I went to Uganda. It was an amazing trip, and not only did I meet Issa, but his family and village. I also was asked to speak in many different villages, and it was very powerful. I ended up going back to Uganda several times. Another year I went on mission to do a medical dental vision clinic in Kenya, and then of course over to Uganda to visit my family there. Now that Issa was well on his way in university, I decided to sponsor another child, a little girl named Manjeri. She wants to be a doctor. While on that trip, Issa's village had a surprise for me. They had a celebration with the village elders as well as the village witch doctor and government officials. There was also a gentleman who was the descendant of the king of Uganda, and he presented me with a gift. 34 acres of land. I knew right away I was to build a school and clinic on that beautiful piece of land. We began a foundation right away. It has been incorporated by the Ugandan government, but unfortunately not in Canada. Lots of red tape. I have a board in Canada and Uganda and a consultant in Uganda. All plans are made. I told God I was willing and able to make this happen. I just needed God to help me get the funding to do it. I also realized that had I not had the courage to take a leap of faith and go to Uganda myself to speak, none of this would have happened. God's plans are always better than our own, aren't they? In December 2007, I was in a bad car accident. A young man hit me, and after several years of therapy, the specialist told me I would probably never work again. So last December, I decided because I could no longer practice in my profession as a dental hygienist, maybe it was time to write the book that has been on my heart for 13 years, and the one I drew on your picture in 2008. I thought I was going to write my story and experience with living with autism, but I woke up December 15th last year, and I felt clearly in my heart that I was not supposed to write my story, but write the book I wish someone had handed to me when we received the diagnosis of autism. It took me 1 year and 8 days to write, and it's been an amazing year. I met Jack Canfield, and he mentored me with my book. Because of Jack's suggestions, I'm also going to have a website called livingautism.com for parents and caregivers who care for loved ones with autism spectrum disorders. When I was president of Autism Society New Brunswick in our province in 2003, I had met with several government MPs and worked hard along with parents, and we raised $1.8 million in funding for therapy for all children diagnosed in our province. Now all children receive $20,000 a year for needed therapy. Over the last 13 years, I've watched many families fall apart due to the stress of autism. 80% of marriages fail when there is an autistic family member. I also realize that so many parents put everything they can financially to the needs of their children's therapies and education. So often there is never anything left for other needs of the parents and family extras. Some lose their homes and life savings. I realize that somehow I must be able to do something about this. I want to do something. So I asked myself, what would Oprah do? And in my heart, the answer came. Start the Living Autism Foundation to offer parents and caregivers free weekend retreats so they can reconnect the relationships, relax, and refuel. And by doing so, they go home better able to care for their children. I haven't worked out all the details yet, but I'm sure God will send me the right direction and to the right people. I'm just finishing the final touches with writing my first book, Living Autism Day by Day. My book is being edited and formatted for publishing right now. Last week I received a special email invitation. It said, your chance to have VIP experience with Oprah in Montreal, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for 20 people to meet, greet, and take a photo with Oprah Winfrey. Can you believe it? I am finally going to meet you, for real. I also believe the timing was no coincidence. I had posted that picture of you on my vision board, and in your hand I drew a book I knew I would write one day. I've just finished writing my book, and it's ready for publishing. There is something much more powerful happening here, more than I could ever dream of. I can't wait to see what God's got in store for me now. Dear Oprah, one day I would love to have an afternoon tea and chat with the most inspiring woman I have ever considered my personal mentor. If you ever really want to experience down-home Eastern Canadian hospitality, I would graciously enjoy hosting you in my beautiful home in the Pitcher Province of Canada, just outside the capital city of Fredericton in the province of New Brunswick. Your inspired and grateful biggest Canadian fan, Pamela Bryson-Weaver.